Tulsi is out of here, or going out of here. Plus, we got our friend Uncle Bill Tilford to talk about Cuba and the continued election shenanigans in Indiana.
And we got much more as well right here today on The Undercurrent.
Uncle Warren.
Hola and Tito Puentes to all my friends out there. Tito Puentes was a drummer, if you didn't know that. I actually knew, a fun fact, I actually worked with a guy who was married to Tito Puentes' daughter.
Really?
Yeah, if you're into that sort of thing. And I know you are. So
I am, yes.
You're fancy. And,
I'm fancy because I remember my tin fish and my weird nuts.
I saw them at Madison Square Garden. Tin Fish and the Weird Nuts. They opened up for Rush. It was a great show. That does sound like a good band name, though, like some weird Tin Fish. Was it Tin Fish and the Weird Nuts?
Indeed, indeed. We got our good friend Uncle Bill Tilford is here today with us, too.
That's right. He's chilling backstage. Can we pry him out of the bunker? See, we have bunkers, too.
We have bunkers, too, yeah. They're fancy because they're stocked with tin fish and weird nuts.
Yeah. As nature intended.
Yes.
We got people in the house.
We do.
Y'all? We got Nadia Yvette Chambers. Hello.
Hey, good to see you. We got
from
John
Berlin.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, she's Nadia's over there in Berlin. Good to see you. And I forgot how to say hello in German. But hello.
Hello.
In English. What's up, John? Good to see you. Let's see. Who we got? Poppy said on a live one. I see what you did there.
I see what you did.
I see what you did there. Ellen, it's totally fine. I know she's probably not even watching this.
We know that. We love you. And thank you so much for your support, too.
Yeah. And you should check out her show on YouTube. It's on her channel at Ellen Jimerson there.
Yeah.
But it's called Moving Parts. And she has interesting conversations on there. Highly recommend it. I'm not quite sure. I think she does it on Tuesdays, but she might be doing Guten Tag. Thank you.
Guten Tag, yeah.
Guten Tag, John. Chuck's there too. Look out. The asteroids are coming. Quit. Don't tease me.
We got enough going on with these chemical plant explosions and stuff that some pretty serious stuff, actually.
I'd be going out there with like one of those witching rods, but instead of looking for water, I'm looking for sky rocks. Come on.
Dowsing rods. The dowsing.
Yeah, the dowsing rods. Yeah, but I'm looking for asteroid rods. They're like, all right, I'll put you right over there. Let's put one right over there.
I'm just looking for weird nuts.
I'm just saying, you put some rocks in strategic places, things can change.
Strategery.
Or the better. Yes, it's strategery. Strategery. Won't get fooled again. Yeah, you didn't know W was in The Who? Yeah, it was but he can't remember the lyrics to his own song. Fool me once. Shame, fool me. You can't get fooled again.
I was like, if you want to get, really dystopian, listen to 905.
But if you're gonna stick with The Who, you can, come meet the new boss, same as the old boss. That sounds like a lot of our things.
Right, we'll talk about that when we talk about Tulsi.
Yeah, well, we got some election news here. I'm not big on the election news itself. I like to look at the big picture around it.
Sure.
And John Cornyn was kind of a staple there for the Republicans, but you go against the boss man, well, you're gonna go to the hole, son. Let's get to the riptide here. Thank you. So Trump's GOP purge claims Cornyn as Paxton wins Texas runoff takeaways. Paxton said, "Game over, man. Game over." Wait, that was Bill Paxton. Never mind. That's somebody else. That's John. I lost Cornyn right there. So I'll hit the high notes here. So Ken Paxton, backed by Donald Trump, defeated incumbent John Cornyn in the Texas Republican Senate primary runoff. Paxton will face Democratic State Representative James Tallarico. It's just a fun name to say like that. In a general election that some political observers believe could be competitive, there's whispers that there are a lot of scared Republicans thinking Tellerico might actually win that one. In a Houston area congressional race, freshman Representative Christian Menifee defeated longtime Democratic Representative Al Green. Oh, but let's stay together. Come on. Any kind of weather? Wasn't that Al Green? Loving you forever. So Trump's purge of Republicans who had dared to defy him reached a new height with the ousting of Texas Senator John Cornyn. That's right. They picked and shucked the Cornyn. A four-term pillar of the GOP establishment, Cornyn once climbed to his party's number 2 leadership post in the upper chamber of Congress. But even with the support of Senate leadership and a fundraising edge, the 74-year-old lawmaker lost a bitter runoff race to State Attorney General Ken Paxton, a scandal-plagued but MAGA-coded when it says coded, it almost like you're saying coated, like it's chocolate coated, but it's MAGA coated. Conservative who was endorsed by the president. So that's basically the nuts and bolts. We don't have to cry, bitter tears that John Cornyn lost, but it's like that as we get up to the midterms in November, a lot of strange things happening in these primaries.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. We're going to be talking about that with Uncle Bill.
Yeah. Cornyn, like I said, he was number 2. But I can't remember who it was when Mike Johnson swooped in and took the House, the leadership there, as the speaker. And it was supposed to be, I can't remember the guy's name, but Cornyn was number 2 behind that guy. So a lot of mixing up and stuff like that as we go along. But yeah, we got more goodies, and by goodies I mean baddies, for you if I can get here. So little pew pew at the White House.
And then, again, I mean, it's getting to the point where we're just shrugging our shoulders about this kind of thing.
Yeah, and when we shrug our shoulders, bullets come out. Apparently, we have those shoulder guns that that's part of that Elon Musk brain chip stuff. So the White House gunman had previous run-ins with Secret Service, court documents show. And this is always something like when you see these shooters, whether they're the alleged shooters or they actually did it or whatnot, somehow they always had some dealings with the FBI before. It always happens that way. Isn't that wild? So the suspect who fired shots outside the White House, striking a bystander before the Secret Service shot and killed him, had previous run-ins with authorities there, court documents show. Nasir Best, whose identity was confirmed to the BBC by police, that's this outlet here, previously obstructed a White House entry lane in June last year and told Secret Service agents he was Jesus Christ. Oh,
sounds legit.
I know, right? Well, there must have been a water bottle out there, and he was like, "See, guys, watch this." And they're like, "Yeah, it must be legit." He was sent for a mental evaluation after that incident. Best is accused of firing shots outside the president's home just after. That'd be 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's actually, it should be. I found this out. Like when you're in daylight savings time, like we are. You're supposed to say Eastern Daylight Time. ED.
Yeah, I know, but I always get the letters
I didn't know that till
so I just do the 2.
I didn't know till like last week. That's how stupid I am when it comes to time stuff. Anywho, it was 6 p.m. in the evening. On Saturday, reporters filming outside ducked and ran for cover. Inside, Trump was at the White House but was unharmed. Let me see a little bit here.
That President Trump has said a deal is close, only for the two sides to remain far apart.
Man, that's scary.
But if she was in Chicago, she'd be like, "Oh, it's Thursday."
Well, it's getting to the point up there too. So,
yeah, I know. Well, it's always that game of is that firecrackers or is that gunshots? Don't want to find out up close. So court documents show that during a June 2025 incident with the Secret Service, Best of Dundalk, Maryland, told agents he wanted to be arrested. Despite having a mental evaluation a month later in July, he again tried to access the White House. Best was arrested by Secret Service agents after that second incident and charged with unlawfully entering a federally controlled property, according to court records. He was released after being arraigned on the unlawful entry charge, but in August of last year, he failed to appear for a status hearing. The documents show that led to a no bond bench warrant allowing enforcement to arrest him. I wonder if he was gone for 3 days. Just pin that. Then on Saturday, less than a year later, he reappeared outside the White House and began firing at Secret Service checkpoint at the intersection of 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest near the Eisenhower Executive Office building. Secret Service officers posted on the corner returned fire, striking the gunman. Best was taken to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. A bystander was also shot and seriously wounded, but was in stable condition as of Sunday. It's not clear how the bystander was shot. No officers were injured in the attack. Trump, as we said, was at the White House at the time, but officials said no protectees or operations were impacted. I gotta say though, there's all these attempts and whatnot. I'm pretty sure he has pissed off people, some people, to the point where they feel they need to take that action. But I'm still like, some of these might be legit and some of these might be what, WWE kayfabe, and this one might be. I mean, I don't know about this one. I always think like if one of these things happen, then there's always some sort of thing, right? I mean, we'll talk about later in the Clownfish School how they're using this to get the ballroom going.
Yeah.
But that's a dumb story. But yeah, we'll talk about
We
that
have
later.
a lot of inflammatory rhetoric. People who are mentally ill can respond to that. I hate using the word triggered, but there it is. And so I think it's stochastic terrorism. I've been watching this since 30 years ago when the abortion clinics were literally under fire. The leaders of the anti-abortion movement in this country, they weren't calling for violence for the most part. But they were using this rhetoric: Holocaust, murder, torture, and you had mentally unhinged people who were going and doing their dirty work. Yeah.
I mean, he really wants this ballroom.
I know he does.
I mean, he's like kind of upset. What part of me thinks, okay, this is like an ego thing because they're probably going to call it the Donald Trump ballroom or, the Trump ballroom because he was a president and whatever, right? He gets his name on some official thing in Washington. But I think he actually really wants to use that bunker because I think he knows some shit's going to go down.
Yeah, he has the biggest balls of them all. I keep saying it.
Yeah. He doesn't have the biggest brains.
To Bon Scott, but yeah.
He doesn't have the biggest brains, but he definitely has the
he has some cojones. He's got audacity that I've never seen before.
I mean, sometimes big balls to do it, but sometimes, you gotta have a big brain. The Trumper bunker.
The Trumper bunker.
Yeah. All right, we got more news. There was apparently a chemical tank was about to do some bad stuff, but fortunately, it is not, I don't believe. So let's check in here. So Garden Grove chemical tank no longer a threat for catastrophic explosion, officials say. Officials say a lot of things. Hopefully this one's true. Crews have confirmed that a crack inside a malfunctioning chemical tank at a Garden Grove aerospace plant is indeed reducing pressure inside the container, leading fire officials to say they have turned a corner in heading off the most catastrophic threat, a massive explosion. And we've seen a lot of those lately, so don't need any more. Just saying. Data collected from an all-night mission by fire crews determined that the threat of a highly destructive blast known as a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion, or BLEAV, I believe I can fly, has been eliminated. Interim Orange County Fire Authority Chief TJ McGovern announced in a Monday morning, May 25th video update. The crack is there. Division Chief Craig Covey added, we didn't fix the crack, but at least the pressure's down. We had identified it as there, and the tank has released its pressure. After days of often dire warnings by fire officials and experts, the Monday morning announcement was the most optimistic update yet by those working to head off a potential disaster. Boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. Believe. Do you believe? I believe,
Mhm.
which would, I believe I'm going to read the rest of this, which would have likely caused massive damage and released a toxic chemical plume into the air. Occurs when a sealed pressurized container holding a liquid chemical ruptures. The threat of a bleed is off the table. The government said that threat has been eliminated. Temperature inside the tank has also gone down from at least 100 degrees to 93. The chief said that is a key metric. At a high enough temperature, the chemical process was at risk of accelerating out of control, which could lead to a massive explosion. And this kind of reminds me, you remember back in the 80s, I think it was in the 80s, Bhopal in India, the chemical plant there, and it went, and and just, it wasn't just the explosives part, it was also the chemicals leaking into the air too. And a lot of people died or got sick from that. So something like that happening there. I see, when did they say that's in Garden Grove, California?
Yeah.
That's in Orange. I think that's in Orange County. Okay. I mean, you're talking about a lot of people in that area, and that for that thing to go boom like that, it just seems like a lot of safety things these days are being ignored.
By the way, also, there was one in Washington yesterday as well, where people were killed and seriously injured.
Was there an explosion? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly. It was Livingston or something like that. But it was very dangerous. It was a very dangerous chemical, and it was pretty bad. We were talking about it on Marcus Cage's show, The Political Matrix. Great friend. Folks need to subscribe to him. And they were talking about it over the weekend and pointed out, people were saying, well, was this planned? And he was saying, look, in his experience, a lot of times it's just negligence. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to agree with it. Having worked in a variety of organizations, you'd be surprised at how many things are just completely overlooked.
Yeah.
And so there it is. If there's a conspiracy, it's a conspiracy of negligence and people being so distracted and nobody planning or taking responsibility for facilities and processes. So that's where I'm going to put this at this point.
Yeah. And then there's the whole cutting corners thing, too, to save a buck, because that seems to be very much in vogue these days. Sorry, I drank my water and all of a sudden it just went sploot. And
I've had that happen.
I know, right? It's a fluke of physics. When you're alone by yourself, that's one thing, but when you're talking to people, kind of don't want the waterworks. Sorry about that. And I kind of need these to see. So
kind of important at our age,
I know, right? I'm just gonna start just moving.
At least it wasn't any tin fish exploding all over you, because that's harder to wipe up.
Ooh, and the smell. It goes from fancy to stinky very quickly if you don't catch it.
Yeah.
So let us go further with all this good news that we're bringing to you this morning. The millennials' dream of ethical and affordable luxury. The dream. Keep dreaming. The Gen X is in that. We've been dreaming about that too, for the most part. So Shine buys Everlane, which sold millennials a dream of ethical, affordable luxury. What does all this mean? Shine, the ultra fast fashion juggernaut, is buying Everlane, a brand that once pitched millennial shoppers on a vision of fashion with ethical factories and radical transparency into how its clothes were made and priced. This is the start of a bigger chapter for Everlane and the team behind it. CEO Alfred Chang said in a statement shared with NPR, he did not disclose the size of the deal, but added that Everlane would remain an independent brand, staying true to our longstanding brand values, sustainability commitments, and exceptional quality. When people throw values into the mix, I'm just kind of like, that kind of triggers my side eye a little bit. Like, values. Okay, let's. So buying California-based Everlane gives Shine a bigger U.S. foothold and access to a higher-end online retail model. Shine was founded in China, but has ballooned into a global giant, up on the latest TikTok micro trends with dresses under $15 and jewelry under $5. Shine shelved its plans to become a publicly traded company in either the U.S. or in Europe, and it faced extensive legal complaints and scrutiny by lawmakers on both continents, particularly over its labor practices. For Everlane, the deal appears to present a lifeline. Chang promised a new era with expanded global reach, new capabilities, and greater opportunities. But Everlane fans mourned online with posts accusing the brand of selling out and betraying them. A headline by Fast Company declared the era of millennial optimism is officially over. I thought that era was over like probably about 10 years ago, but I don't really keep up.
And the thing is that the nice thing is that Gen X, we were never optimistic, so we don't suffer these disappointments.
Our motto is expect the worst and you won't be disappointed. Trust me, try it. It works. Once sported by celebrity fashionistas like Meghan Markle and Angelina Jolie, Everlane focuses on minimalist basics and natural fabrics in the affordable luxury category, with tailored shorts for $120 and linen tops for $80. The company came of age in the 2010s in the wave of trendy direct-to-consumer companies like sneaker maker Allbirds. They wooed shoppers with pitches of sustainability and transparency. Yes, that same Allbirds in April claimed it was pivoting to becoming an AI company. Yeah, that's where you cue the Curb Your Enthusiasm credits. Boom, boom, boom. Everlane's finances have faltered in recent years, with debt weighing heavy on the brand. The majority owner, private equity firm L. Catterton, decided to sell. Shine and L. Catterton did not respond to NPR's request for comment after Puck earlier reported news of the deal. It ricocheted through the fashion world. Everlane was built on this brand around sustainability and fewer, better things, and Shine often feels the opposite, said Katie Thomas, who leads the Kearney Consumer Institute, a think tank inside a consulting firm that works with major retailers and brands. The biggest challenge with any value-based product is the price has to be right for the right consumer, Thomas says. And Everlane, I think, just was exposed to a category that got crowded. Now brands like Aritzia, Reformation, and even Gap are pitching affordable luxury, as is another of Everlane's rivals, Quince, which is wooing shoppers and with more lower prices. One big question now, Thomas says, is whether a tie-up with a paragon of fast fashion alienates Everlane's current clientele or sways Shine shoppers to trade up. Shine for years has tried to shed its fast fashion reputation with sustainability commitments. Another question now, will it benefit from Everlane's internal processes, or will Everlane become a faster moving trend chaser? My vote is for the latter.
Yeah, I mean, I caught this, and it's a little bit different from what we usually talk about, but I thought it was important because Everlane, really kind of put itself out there as being ethical fashion. And it is true that if you want a piece of clothing that is not made in a sweatshop, that is made in a sustainable way, you're going to pay a lot more for it. Everlane had one of their issues was that their pieces were basics, but they were also boring. And I think they just didn't really appeal. They didn't have the mass appeal, certainly that some other fashion brands have. And I think also that people just don't have the money. If you want to get, and he said in shorts for $120, a blouse for $80. And again, that's a reasonable amount to pay for something when you are paying for, when you're compensating your labor fairly, you've got ethical supply chains, but many people can't afford that. And that's why fast fashion is a thing, because people do pay attention to what they're wearing. If you want to move ahead in your career, you're going to have to look a certain way. So this is, I think it's inevitable. And I think it's sad. And I do not think that Everlane is going to remain sustainable. This is what I'm going to say.
No. Well, yeah. And it's not just them. A lot of them are going to be not very sustainable if these prices keep going up. And there's no end in sight. And then the wage is not going up with it. That's the thing. Your price is going to rise wherever, as long as your pay is way up there, then it's not a big deal. But that's not the case, and hadn't been the case for quite some time. So and we're going to get to Bill here in just a second, but we want to set this up with Tulsi Gabbard leaving on a jet plane. Don't know where she's going to. Probably Hawaii, though. Tulsi Gabbard's exit weakens MAGA's anti-war faction. Yes, she was very silent this whole time during the Iran war. Very interesting. In the last 3 months, Trump has lost a string of senior officials: the Homeland Security Secretary, the Attorney General, and the Secretary of Labor. On May 22nd, Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, DNI, joined this exodus, citing her husband's cancer diagnosis. She had cut an increasingly lonely figure, sidelined from most major decisions. That should be had been cut, I guess. I don't know. They don't. The Economist is stupid. Yet her departure comes as Trump weighs up whether to restart a war on Iran that Miss Gabbard had long opposed. It's probably why we didn't hear from her, because they raided her office too. I think the FBI, because she asked for all this stuff, and they say no, we takes the backsies. Gabbard, a combat veteran, former congresswoman from Hawaii, was a foreign policy contrarian. She met Bashar al-Assad, Syria's dictator, in 2017 and blamed NATO for Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Don't really see much difference there in the truth and what she said, because, they did kind of, screw over Russia. In between, she ran for the Democratic presidential nomination while hawking "No War with Iran" t-shirts. She left the party in 2022, first becoming an independent, and then in 2024, a Republican, coming to represent the anti-war wing of the MAGA movement. Her appointment as DNI, charged with coordinating America's 18 intelligence agencies, alarmed many spooks. In practice, Ms. Gabbard's departure will make little difference to policymaking. She was out of the loop, says a senior official, and did not belong to Trump's core group of advisors on national security and military matters. So, and what this does to MAGA, right? The MAGA's already split, right? Let's go ahead and bring Bill in.
Hey,
Bill Tilford, the man, the myth, the legend.
How you doing, Bill? Good to see you, Uncle Bill.
Hi, folks. Always a pleasure, and I always enjoy the lead-ups to this and everything that you present.
Thank you so much.
Well, we knew you were
here. We were so grateful that you're here for us. So thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. So Tulsi Gabbard, on her way out, she wasn't really even a factor, really, when it had anything to do with Iran, obviously. And now her husband has cancer, I believe. So that was her reason for stepping down. What do you think happens now with MAGA? Does MAGA splinter even more?
I'll get to that, but there's more to be said about her. Where do I begin? During Neo Caligula's recent visit to China, she mentioned the Thucydides trap. And weirdly enough, that got me to thinking about Tulsi, because if we go back in time to when she was still a Democrat, and then we patch in ancient Athens, a number of prominent Athenians ended up flipping sides because of bad treatment by their fellow Athenians. And as hilarious as this is going to sound, when Tulsi was running as a Democrat, I actually wrote her a campaign check, not because I thought her domestic policy was totally up to snuff, but she was one of the few people that had a sane foreign policy. And her basic argument that if we spent less on the military industrial complex, maybe we could fund some more of these social programs, was up to a point sound. Again, I didn't sign off on all of her. She was the closest thing that the Democratic Party had to a doppelganger of Ron Paul, maybe. If we were just talking foreign policy. So fast forward, she flips. I was heartbroken and scratched my head when she went into the Trump administration, but I have to believe that the part of the Trump line, and a lot of MAGA bought into this too, that he wasn't going to do stupid wars, that he was going to do deals. I would like to believe that's what drew her in. And as we know, that ended badly, but she was the closest thing to a voice of truth during her time in there. And she got sent off to the corner for that. There's a reason why she was kept very quiet. When she did speak, she said bad things from the point of the White House. So what happens to MAGA now? This isn't going to be the fracture that physically splits everything apart. I think if anything, MAGA is going to retrench a little bit. The husband's cancer gives a cover story so that she doesn't have to be publicly demonized.
Mm-hmm.
But I think her successors are possibly going to be more public and more openly neo-Caligula.
You know, you mentioned, which is weird because I just recently read, like today, I believe, or was it yesterday, that Pam Bondi has cancer too. So that's I mean, she found out like either right after she was let go, but I'm thinking like, okay, she said she has cancer, and you know, Tulsi's husband has cancer. I'm sure that's a coincidence, but you know, in this high, you know, charged conspiracy theory environment, you know, we're always looking at other angles. I know you was talking about the cracks, right? Yeah, this is just, I think this is probably just like a slight fracture. You already had fractures from America First MAGA, right? The America First, where it's like, you know, they didn't want these wars, you know, they didn't want a foreign country meddling in buying their politicians. You know who I'm talking about there. So
yeah,
you had
one of the things that actually, let's say two things that sent Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was a true believer until she wasn't. One of them was the Epstein files, but the other was Gaza.
Yeah.
You know, why you promised you wouldn't do this stuff. And away we go.
Yeah. You're seeing, I talked to my people down south there who were, just firebrands for Trump, from the first administration. And then what he's been doing now, a lot of them are like, no, I didn't sign up for this, because they were sold a bill of goods just like everybody else in politics does, right? They say, yeah, we're not, no more wars. We're gonna be America first. And then they get in, ha ha, suckers. And then, yeah, there's the sold bill of goods there.
And then on the other extreme, we've got things like Lindsey Grandcracker who think Trump isn't warlike enough. So,
yeah, which is scary. Yeah, I mean, it's like he's being controlled for sure. I mean, his ego controls him, but then there's other people around him too that really know how to push the buttons. Right? They don't steer him, but they guide him. You know what I mean? They'll guide his ego and his dumb thinking into doing stuff like this.
I was really disappointed. As you pointed out, Uncle Bill, I was heartbroken. I got turned down to Tulsi back in the day, and I voted for Hillary for the 2016 election. I didn't feel that I had much of a choice there, and I wasn't crazy about it because I don't like political families in what is supposed to be a democracy. And that rankles me. It's like North Korea. I don't like North Korea in part because I don't think that communists should have ruling families. And I don't think we should have ruling families here. And I also felt that Hillary's run was a deal with Bill after the Monica Lewinsky thing. And I can go on a tangent, but I'm not going to. But I did vote for her. After that, but I always felt like we were being set up. Fake.
Oh, I agree with you 200%. But on the family score, unfortunately, that too goes back to the beginnings. Starting out with the Addams family.
Yeah, the Addams family. the other Addams family.
No pun intended there.
Yeah.
Jumping forward to the Harrisons, there was a little time between William Henry and Benjamin, but there was that. There was the Roosevelts.
And the Bushes.
And the Bushes.
And the Shrubs. And
in an alternate universe, there might have been the Kennedys.
Yeah. And as I said, I don't like it. I know it's there, but I don't like it. And I don't see any reason why I should put up with it. But I did put up with it because Trump was such a buffoon. And then I began to realize that he's far more dangerous than a buffoon, but we'll go on from there. However, I also don't like being made a fool of. And so and now you'll remember this, Uncle Bill, when they were looking at Tulsi and it was when part of the primaries for the 2020 election, I believe it was, that was, I remember, I was going to vote for her and then she withdrew. And in the primary, I ended up voting for her anyways, although you had warned me that even though she didn't actually withdraw, she suspended the campaign. And if you remember, I believe you were the one who contacted me and said, hey, there's something shady going on at the polls. It was something like they were crossing her off the ballot when that was not supposed to happen. You remember that?
Yeah. I mean, it would have been academic even if the polls had been kept clean, quote unquote, because to actually have your vote count, there's this little matter of the Electoral College also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, there were some shady things going on. Electoral irregularities are nothing new, especially in Chicago.
But I remember, I did write her in because I refused to vote for Biden. I was so disgusted at that point, the manipulations that I had seen. I was so disgusted. I voted, and then I just gave up. And then watching her flip, and I knew she was a cagey politician, and I knew that she was, she's a politician from a political family herself. But my heart was broken, and it was very sad to see her adopt MAGA, and whether this was a matter, something that was always there for her, I don't know, or whether she had been treated so poorly by the people and by the Democrats that, like most of us, we don't take kindly to being treated poorly, and we will go where people will show us appreciation. And that, I don't know. I can't say that I don't know the woman, but it was disappointing to see her go over to Donald Trump and MAGA, and it was not what I expected or wanted to see.
Yeah, it's worth remembering that Ronald Reagan started life as a Democrat, politically speaking.
He did.
But in his case, it was a question of more of principle. And I really want to believe in my heart that Tulsi didn't fall in love with Neo Caligula the Man, that she really thought maybe she'd be a force for good on the anti-war. And it would have been a naive, misguided view, but I'd like to believe that that's what she held. I mean, I could be wrong.
I did not expect him to come out as a warmonger myself. I mean, I really didn't. I remember the first time around, he was surrounding himself with all these generals, and I thought that he just kind of liked the big shiny buttons and all that, and the uniforms. But he didn't seem terribly interested in war, and then he did a flip, and then watching what happened here, it's been extremely disturbing, and a lot of the interference, what happened in Venezuela, now it's going on in Cuba, all of it has just been. I did not really expect it, and I should have expected a flip because I am a pro wrestling fan, and that's what you do when you want to get the attention up, is you flip people around. But I didn't, and then just to see Tulsi in this administration, it has been disturbing.
It would take an hour to go all the way into the weeds with Trump and the will to power, but I think part of what happened here in the short form is that power was always job one, and all of his other roads there with the American people were not panning out. So that's the card he had left to play. And that, too, is part of the American story. When all else fails, lob some missiles. Even Billy Clinton did that when the Lewinsky story was getting too hot.
Well, Trump also figured out a way to make money off of war, too.
Yes, that also. Absolutely, yeah.
What he needed, though, he couldn't do it himself. He couldn't say, we're going to go in, balls to the wall. We can't do that. So he blames Israel for saying, well, if you guys were going to, we know you were going to retaliate against, the speech that, what's his name, the Secretary of State, I call him Aquaman. I can never remember his name, but he was saying, they said, well, they were going to attack us. So it was a preemptive thing. And then, all of a sudden the dollar signs in Trump's head, hey, we're going to war, and then crazy oil prices go up. We got some peace. And then the oil goes down. Oh, here comes that war again. And then the prices go up. So he found a way to manipulate the war to his advantage by manipulating the markets with it. So and now it's like this could be a forever war for as long as he's president.
Yeah, the Dow is very much an arcade game now, and people have figured out how to rig it. It is also an interesting coincidence that Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, also previously consulted for Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Small world.
Small world, huh? Yeah, small country, more like the really small country with big influence. Well, let's pivot over to the homeland here, particularly what's going on in Indiana and Illinois. You said shenanigans are going on over here. Bill, we just had you on 2 weeks ago. You were supposed to stop it with your superpowers. What happened?
What happened has national implications, and I think it's why it's important that we talk about it now. But again, I think we need to set the table with a little context. Crossover and infiltrative voting are as old as open primaries. And by open primary, I mean you don't have to swear an loyalty oath and buy a party card and all of that. In Illinois, part of the inglorious history of that is, at which Laney would well know, is that two LaRouche candidates managed to get Democratic nominations back in 1986. And Chicago, of course, has a history of Democratic voters wandering into the Republican primaries in Chicago, which is one reason why the Republican Party kept getting candidates like Spanky the Clown, rather than actual credible Republican candidates. But knowing all of this and knowing that this stuff happens, here's the flip side if you keep the rules for voting too tight. The whole point of reaching out to new voters, and I'm thinking about Reagan Democrats here as part of my thought process, is attracting people that didn't vote for your party last time. So where a voter was last time, if that locks them into this time, your universe of participation at the primary stage is also kind of locked in, which is maybe the most potent argument for relatively open primaries. Now, let's fast forward to today. A couple things happened. In the district we talked about, Deary won ultimately by 3 votes for now. Obviously, with that margin, it's in recount. That by itself is not a big deal. But Copenhagen.
I thought it was Copenhagen too for a second. I had to.
We're not talking about Greenland yet.
Wonderful Copenhagen. Yes. Looked at social media, and there were people that bragged about crossing over to help Dewey. So her legal staff is trying to invalidate those ballots. Now, this has some really nasty implications nationwide, even if the courts merely consent to hear that argument, which I think is likely to happen in July, as of this morning. Basically, if her argument is legitimized, whether she finally wins it or not, that opens up the whole country to who knows what evil lurks in the heart of voters. I mean, what's in your head when you walk into a voting booth is supposed to be sacrosanct.
Yes.
Before, during, and after. If you voted for or against somebody because you like their hair color, this is I'm not saying that's a good thing, but this is America. So in a better world, the Indiana courts would just throw that out and stick with the recount and get on to business. There is, as a sidebar, a second recount going on, but it's between Trump and Trumper. So I won't go into that in depth. But basically, we have to remember here, this is two different Republicans running in this thing where we've got the recount. And we are at a flexion point regarding the Republican Party. The original Republican Party, going back a couple centuries, kind of emerged from the wreckage of the Whigs. You know, the Republican Party has not always been here. It was a fairly new party. There was a party before it, the Whigs, that was pretty prominent. And I think we're at a flexion point where at some point, the Republican Party is going to have to either recapture its identity, as in we are not just Trump, or for that reason, it's going to fracture. Something close to that, but not quite, happened with Teddy Roosevelt when he ran on the Bull Moose ticket. And I think we're at a point now, if not right now, after Neo Caligula's death, whenever that, by natural causes or other, whenever that may be, he's not going to live forever. And at some point, that's not going to be the unifying force. People aren't going to rally around Neo Caligula's ghost as the centerpiece of their platform. So from a certain point of view, the Republican Party is a dead party walking.
I want to just go back to one thing here. When we're talking about Copenhagen, I believe when I was reading that she was talking about trying to subpoena voters
Yes,
to explain themselves.
exactly.
And that scared the hell out of me. I think when you pointed out earlier when we were talking about it in Messenger, that scared the hell out of me.
That's where the national implications come in. If the Indiana courts legitimate that, you can bet your bippy that. Remember when Trump was trying to get me another 10,000 votes?
But I mean, the idea of, it's Orwellian. The idea of being that you can haul somebody before a court to ask them to explain their vote. As you said, you have a vote that is sacrosanct. I remember the 1976 election between Carter. No, was it 76? That was between Carter and Ford, I believe. And I was a little girl. I was 7. And my grandmother brought me to the polling places back when they had all the levers, when you actually had a voting booth. You actually had a curtain. That's how, it was not these little tiny places now. You actually walked into a booth. And the election judges were giving my grandmother a hard time about bringing me in there. Because you were not supposed to have anybody else in there. Your vote was yours. And that was your vote. And that's how sacrosanct it was, that a 7-year-old child was being challenged from going in with her grandmother who didn't want to leave her outside the booth.
Yeah, if this is legitimized by the courts here, not only will attempts spread nationwide, but going into the general election, if you can call people in on a primary to ask what was in your heart, you might be able to call them in after the general and ask, did you really, honest to God, mean to vote for XXX? And what were you thinking when you did it?
Yeah. And that scares the hell out of me, particularly with the electronic voting machines. I mean, would it be easier for them to trace using those machines than with a paper ballot? I mean, this is so dystopian.
Yeah.
The idea, and I get angry enough when people, and I got shamed by people for writing in Tulsi. And people did shame me for this and said, why'd you throw away your vote? And my feeling is that it's my vote. I can do with it as I wish. And if I want to send a message with it, I will do so because I am that disgusted and fed up with what I'm seeing. But the idea, these were just people I knew. In casual conversation. And I volunteered that information about how I voted. And I'm volunteering it now. But the idea that somebody can track my vote, and then afterwards, because they're disgruntled, subpoena me, which I have to respond to the subpoena, and then cross-examine me in put me under oath, cross-examine me, and starting to try to get into my head where I have to publicly state things. This is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who's doing the subpoenaing, right? I mean, why isn't a court or a grand jury or somebody saying, no, you can't subpoena somebody based on how they voted? Why isn't there that check, before it even gets to that person?
The Deary campaign has objected and called it egregious. It remains to be seen whether this piece of things ends up in the courts. I'm hoping that the courts will be sober and reject this on constitutional grounds, if nothing else. But we are in the Hoosier heartland here. And as I mentioned during my last visit, Nixon's last holdouts lived here.
Mm-hmm.
And while Deary lives in a relatively sane red zone, Copenhagen is out in the. I should probably offer to work for whoever campaigns against her if she does prevail, because there's so many things you can do with that last name. Anyway.
Yeah, like Copenhagen. Yeah, that's the one.
Massive amounts of cope. Yeah.
Yeah, or different variations on Copro, but
right.
But anyway, her base is out in Landgrebe-like area. They want to see a flag, and in this case, they want to see our president, right or wrong, and they don't want to be confused with the facts. So, unfortunately, this may come down to who the judge is, and I haven't taken a good deep look into that yet. That's next on my to-do list.
Okay.
Who's actually going to hear that? So you might see me again.
Oh, please. Yes,
because
absolutely.
if this gets taken too seriously or worse, goes the wrong way, then we'll do a little forensics on how that came to be. But but again, it's worth watching because the implications, if it doesn't die in the crib, truly are national, and they truly might have a bearing on the general election.
Well, let's pivot now to go down to Cuba, and we touched on what's going on in Venezuela and South America there, Bolivia having a time, storming the gates. Love to see that. But in Cuba, it's more of a different, they're kind of, it seems like they're going for global solidarity to point out that, who is the real evildoer in this case, because they always demonize Cuba for being so dangerous to the United States. And it's like, what, cigars? What are you talking about? So Cuba urges global solidarity amid fears of U.S. aggression. What is, do you think the world is going to rally around Cuba? Now it seems like things are kind of shifting politically for a lot of these countries. Or you can ask the cat. Whose cat was that?
That's mine. The cat. That's Ned.
That cat's got opinions. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As with almost everything, I'm going to have to parse that a little bit. Some of Europe, we'll start there, is veering to the right. In fact, in my radio life, I'm writing a monthly column about radio in the Czech Republic. And the Czech Republic has moved to the right. Slovakia's moved to the right. Poland's moved to the right. Germany has a rising right. Britain is in turmoil right now. One of the few oases of sanity in Europe right now is Spain, but Spain doesn't punch very hard. Italy is right-wing, but kind of wishing that it hadn't sidled up so closely to Neo-Caligula. So is Europe going to rally with Cuba? I don't know. I'm not sure that's a fight it wants to pick. Certainly, it's not happy. Greenland, Iran, Ukraine. But if I'm sitting in a European Parliament and I'm asking myself, is Cuba the hill I want to die on? The answer is probably no. Too many more existential things to fight about. Again, with certain exceptions that prove the rule, like Spain. China is shipping Cuba things to help build its electrical grid using solar and batteries.
Oh, that's good.
In a way, this is forcing Cuba to do something that its bureaucracy would have dragged its feet on forever. It's getting into electric cars and electric motorcycles and electric buses, and it's doing it in a way that it never would have prioritized without the pressure. So China's going to be in there, but will China park a destroyer a few miles off Guantanamo? Probably not.
Right. I would think it would be more economic than anything, like Russia too, right? Russia's been bringing oil to the island, or at least they did a couple of trips, I think.
Yeah, there's always a story behind the story behind the story. And just as I was mentioning the digital ruble in the context of Venezuela some weeks ago, Cuba, for all of the U.S. rhetoric about opening Cuba's economy, I didn't share you a link because it's en Espanol, but towards the end of last year, Cuba had actually done a series of new tiered economic guidelines that the world wasn't seeing yet, because there's always an implementation lag between the time that something hits on paper. But part of that was opening investment to foreign countries, which the countries that were going to take advantage of that were going to be countries like China and Russia and Vietnam. So the answer to the question, was Cuba moving in the direction of more foreign investment anyway, was yes, but no soup for you, Uncle Sam, because you've got this embargo thing where you can't do that even if you wanted to without going to Congress first.
Yeah.
But again, we hadn't seen that play out because the embargo and everything else that's going on. But it did put time sensitivity on the Trump administration doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And Cuba was also a plan B with moving on the digital ruble and crypto at some point. Cuba's own currency is not Zimbabwean yet, but it's not doing well. And there is such a convoluted exchange system now, even in the legitimate monetary market,
Mm-hmm.
that you almost have to have a microcomputer to figure out, where am I? What's the exchange rate in this place? Who am I dealing with? There are literally, not counting the black market, which throws in an extra level, there are literally 3 or 4 tiers going on simultaneously, depending on what the transaction is and who it's with.
I think it's fun to think about Cuba, and so you piqued my interest with China and giving them like the solar power technology to do that. The one caveat to that though is that is an island nation that gets ravaged by hurricanes practically every year. So it seems like yes, solar would do fine down there, but it also needs to be hardy enough to where it can withstand like these massive storms that come through there. So that's because last thing you want to do is put up this shiny new solar plant, like, yay, we got solar power now, we don't need oil. Oh, hurricane, and there it goes.
Well, I promised Lainey long before our session today that I was going to throw a couple of curveballs. So here they come.
All right.
The first one is that infrastructure, including energy, is not merely a Cuban problem. It's a broader Caribbean problem. Several different countries in the region are looking at that, all without terribly optimistic results, including, I might add, a U.S. colony, Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
the Puerto Rican power system is ghastly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
we've done very little to correct that. And conventional energy methods are not going to fix that. And all these countries also get hit by these hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
See, I would think like wind power would probably be more feasible for down there, because even though make them sturdy enough to withstand hurricanes and use that extra wind to power up massive batteries on the other, because they would need to change their infrastructure massively.
Actually, if you go deep into and I will take one swat at Cuba. A lot of this has been languishing in their bureaucracy, and their bureaucracy is awful. But having been in Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican bureaucracy is pretty horrid as well. Not as bad as Cuba's, but Cuba doesn't have a monopoly on that aspect of human nature. If you look at their energy plan, it's not all solar and all electric. It's geothermal. There's an element of wind. Solar is part of solar and electric batteries are part of a nutritious breakfast. Let me put it that. But again, the problem is the bureaucracy up until now has been ghastly about actually executing. In a certain sort of way, we've done them a favor by making it a you must move now or else issue. With infrastructure generally, and this is another part of the curveball, North Americans have this notion that if you do open it up for investment, a lot of folks will go down there flush with cash, and Cuba will turn into the land of milk and honey. Well, here are a few of the reasons why it's not going to play out quite like that, even in a what-if scenario. First of all, tourism, which is going to be the great savior, is actually sort of a resource piggy. You have to have water, you have to have roads, you have to have food. And Cuba's build on hotels has happened to some degree at the neglect of sidewalks and the water system. Lots more tourists actually put a little stress on the economy because the locals have to eat too. So if you bring in more tourists, you also have to bring in more food. Where are you going to get the money to do that? And you've seen pictures of the buildings. But again, even if you build all kinds of shiny new buildings, you still have to build the water lines. You have to fix the sidewalks. You have to do all that other stuff. And who's going to invest in that? Do you even if Jose goes down with $10 million and wants to build a new Airbnb or something, do you think he's going to pay to fix the sidewalks? Probably not, because there's no ROI, or also known as return on investment of that.
Right. Yeah. I would think like the Chinese would be like the biggest investors because of their track record of going into other countries and helping them with infrastructure projects and train projects and stuff like that too. That just seems like the natural fit.
Yeah, but they aren't doing that as a registered charity. They have expectations.
Right. Yeah. Grass, gas, or ass, nobody rides for free.
Yeah.
We all know that slogan. But there could be a return on an investment. It really depends on what the island is good for them for.
Yeah. Private investors will not fix infrastructure. They won't. So
no.
China or Russia on a governmental level maybe could. Now the third pitch. And that's the question of compensation versus sanctions. Part of the hypothetical deal, if there ever is one, is that Cuba compensates Cuban Americans for expropriated property. Now we're going to pull in another little bit of history. Post-Versailles, Germany, 1920s, 1930s. Okay. The Allies messed up a little bit of Germany too, but the sanctions were pretty much Germany pays, and Germany pays in a way that created resentments that were one of the legs on the stool that helped build Hitler. What if Cuba unilaterally compensates Cuban Americans, but we don't kick in for all the economic, and notice I'm not using the word embargo. It doesn't matter whether it's embargo, blockade, or whatever you call it. Everybody agrees that sanctions existed. And either the sanctions did real economic damage, and the question is how much, or they didn't do any, in which case, what the hell were we doing? What were we thinking?
Mm-hmm.
The United States cannot credibly claim there was zero economic damage from the sanctions. So in order to get to a final there, you have to take the compensation amount, and Cuba has compensated some European countries for expropriations. It's done that in the past, but they didn't have to worry about the sanctions piece because Spain and France and whatnot were not doing trade embargoes on Cuba. You have to have an offset. I have no idea who owes whom how much after the dust settles. That's attorneys and it's years, and the way these things probably go, it's pennies on the dollar. But in this scenario where Miami gets its way and all the money comes from Cuba and nothing gets offset, nothing gets thrown back, then you've got the same kind of resentment coming down that Germans felt in the 1920s. Cuba will not produce the next Hitler, but we've noticed repeatedly that it can punch above its weight. It will not end happily ever after for them or for us.
Well, yeah, it's
pretty grim stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, it's not, we're not exactly, doing light pieces on this show anyway, Bill. So, you just pile on to the pile there. That's fine. But we want to talk about you for just a second too. And, Tilford Productions, right? You want to, do you want to discuss that? You put the nice link in here. I'm going to put it
I did. I put the nice link in there because I want people to know who Uncle Bill is and what he does. Music, radio. This guy does a lot.
Yeah, I've been involved in the recording industry and radio programs. Two very fun things that are coming up in the next month. If you are in Europe, my radio programs broadcast on shortwave out of Germany. And next month, I'm doing a program on Persian classical and traditional music. And on the Cuban music program, I'm having a fascinating project with over 60 musicians, some of whom were based in Cuba, some in the United States. That's a Latin jazz album, and that's not showing up on my website right now. But because this new recording is really very, very new, called Figure It Out by Hugo Cruz. It was funded in large part by the Heinz Endowments in Pittsburgh. And maybe another day we can talk a little about the City of Asylum in Pittsburgh. They have sort of an artists and writers colony there that is not for profit. And who would have ever thought to put Pittsburgh on their short list as a cultural hub for, but it has become one.
Yeah.
I summer in Pittsburgh, Bill. So
you maybe know whereof I speak. So you maybe know whereof I speak then.
No, I'm more of a Cleveland kind of guy, but I understand the sentiment there.
Well, Cleveland's about 4 hours from Pittsburgh, I think. I worked in Erie for a little while, so.
But the hate burns so much closer between those two, especially when it comes to like football.
But there's a fascinating global cultural colony that's kind of emerging in Pittsburgh, City of Asylum. And I have no direct connection. It just came to my attention in connection with this new project.
I did want to mention something. When I first interviewed Bill Tilford on Hard Lens Media, civically minded, and we had connected over shortwave radio and our devotion to radio as a medium. And he was telling me, Bill, you were telling me about how as a kid in the cornfields you were exposed to world music because you had a shortwave radio and you were able to listen to that. And one of the things that you really introduced to me is radio and music as a means of cultural diplomacy.
Yes.
And that blew my mind, but it was something I'd never thought of before, but it really blew my mind. And I'm so grateful to you for introducing to me to that idea.
And even we got that here in the United States once upon a time. Yeah. The Voice of America Jazz Hour, jazz show, it had a few titles. Willis Conover was the biggie. They were listening to that in the Kremlin during the Cold War and not looking for secret propaganda messages. It had as much to do with humanizing us as some would even argue it was more important than Star Wars. And in getting Russia to, that's Reagan's.
Reagan's, but yeah, we're not talking about.
How
not the
dare
no,
you,
John Williams was that popular.
No, not the movie. No, not the movie. Reagan's weird satellite killer.
Yeah, the bad version of Star Wars. Yeah, with the B actor. Yeah.
But the whole world was doing this. Moscow also had some wonderful programs, including Folkbox, where they took all these ethnic minorities and put on their folk music.
Yeah.
And the whole world was doing that. And I firmly believe that had as much to do with why we didn't blow each other up as anything. Unfortunately, that's getting lost because now people don't go. One of the things that you did, if you were listening to shortwave in the 70s, was turn the dial to see what came up. I didn't even know there was such a place as Albania until bing, it popped up and they were speaking in English. And once you got past the boring cement production statistics, which is what they were doing in the 1970s, there was some pretty cool music.
Yeah.
I don't think the internet, as amazing as it is in many ways, replicates that experience. I don't think people go trolling through the internet and, ooh, there's Romania, there's Botswana. You don't get introduced that way, the way my generation did, or at least parts of us.
Yeah, same thing. Even. Frankly, on AM FM, it used to be music discovery, and you'd turn the dial and you would hear something in your own area, but you could catch something to catch your ear, and you could do that. I did want to mention one thing. This is not the same as shortwave, and it's not the same as having a physical radio, but there is the wonderful Radio Garden app and website. And I'm putting up the link right now. The cool thing about this is that there are a lot of them are. A lot of these stations are not for profit, low power college stations, but from all over the world. And you can tune in and listen to their stream. If they have a stream and they're able to be on Radio Garden, they're doing that. I have found stuff in Norway that was just fantastic. I'm listening to what they're listening to in Nairobi. And it's absolutely fascinating. And they even have a feature where they can it's a turn of the wheel. They just drop you someplace. So you're not even looking in a certain country, and it's map based. So you'll see this map, and you can hit it, and it'll bring you down, and immediately you get into that stream, and it's just a wonderful way to discover things and discover some new music. And again, it's not the be all and end all. I don't think it is what shortwave or any kind of radio is, but it is a way to tune in to radio stations around the world and to listen to what they're playing.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you mentioned it. I use it occasionally myself for this and that. And the feature that you mentioned is a little like what Google had once upon a time with I'm Feeling Lucky.
Yeah.
Click on it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Except the Radio Garden version works a lot better, I think.
Yeah. And you do get lucky one way or the other because you're listening to some great music.
Yeah. That's one of the good things about the internet is being able to have that kind of selection and giving people an opportunity to put their stuff out there that normally they wouldn't hear, when maybe just locally. Bill, can you hang out? Do you want to hang out with us and do the rest of the show with us? You're always welcome. We got the spare bed in the room there,
Sure.
for you.
And some tinned fish.
Sure, I can hang. I'll be over by the piano there.
All right.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. We put the mints on your pillow too, so
Yeah.
you're welcome in advance. All right. Well, that being said, let's get on. We got a lot more stuff to get to, y'all. Let's get to the recurring types. Some of the stories that are coming back like bad fish, as you say. But actually, maybe some good news here. Let's get to the first one here. This is regarding South Carolina and Alabama. But first, the bad barbecue state. You put mustard in your barbecue sauce, South Carolina?
Oh, I've had it. It's pretty good.
TSK. I've lived around the Memphis area. I'm a very
I like
barbecue
Memphis
snob.
barbecue too, but I'm ecumenical when it comes to barbecue.
Now here I got to pull in because I was once at a pig pole near Columbia, South Carolina, and when it says pig pole, they actually put the pig out. It's been kind of barbecued. They pull it, but it is a mustard rub, and it's wonderful. Back to
we'll
you.
have to agree to disagree on the mustard thing. So
back to you.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to the actual news here then. So South Carolina Senate rejects Trump-backed push to redraw congressional districts. Didn't think this was going to be as easy as he thought it was. And this is South Carolina too. The South Carolina Senate yesterday rejected Trump's push to redraw the state's congressional district in hopes Republicans could gain an additional seat in the midterm elections. Senators had political concerns worrying that any map in a state where Democrats got at least 40% of the votes in the past 8 presidential elections couldn't guarantee Republican wins in all 7 districts. And there were logistical worries. Statewide primaries are June 9th. With early voting starting yesterday, the plan had called for throwing out any congressional votes already cast and holding another statewide primary just for U.S. House races in August. I think that's what happened in Louisiana. They threw out they did the rest of the election, but they didn't do the House race. Election officials said holding these statewide elections in 5 months would require employees to work around the clock to prepare voting machines and ballots and to meet legal requirements. The proposal passed the South Carolina House last Wednesday after 2 days of long debate. Trump's push in South Carolina was part of his broader effort to get Republican-led states to redraw congressional maps in hopes of retaining the party's slim majority in the November elections. Let me get to Alabama. So this is basically one big story as a court blocks Alabama's GOP-rigged electoral map. So a 3-judge panel yesterday temporarily blocked Alabama from using a Republican-drawn congressional map created to effectively disenfranchise Black people who make up more than 1/4 of the population of a state that by GOP design has just one majority Black House district. U.S. Circuit Judge Stanley Marcus, a nominee of former President Clinton's, and District Judges Anna Manasco and Terry Moore, both of whom were nominated by Trump, granted a motion by Alabama State Senator Bobby Singleton, a Democrat out of the 24th District. Black voters and groups including the National and State ACLU, the Alabama State Conference of the NAACP, the Legal Defense Fund, and Southern Poverty Law Center to block the state from using a racially rigged congressional map approved by the GOP-led legislature in 2023. So the Shenanigans, they know they're pretty much toast in November, so they're trying to soften the blow as much as they can by gerrymandering these districts. I mean, do you think more states are going to start speaking out and saying, no, we're not going to have this done in our state?
I think it's going to depend on how painful it is to do so.
I'm with Laney there. I think sometime before we die, assuming it's not too soon, there needs to be either an interstate compact, which is probably the cleaner way to do it, or a constitutional amendment, which would be long and messy, codifying that redistricting shall happen but once after every census, and it will happen within 2 years. Oddly enough, even here within Indiana, you can read the Constitution in a way that makes the attempted redistricting illegal, but it wasn't done with crayons. There are ways you can parse the language both ways. And I think that's correctable. But again, I think it would need to be, and MAGA people would call it a mutual suicide pact probably, but there either needs to be an interstate compact or there needs to be something at the national level. You shall redistrict, you shall do it but once, it shall be within 2 years after the latest census, and you shall not do it again until next time. In legalese, of course. Otherwise, Laney's right. It depends on the pain point. These things are messy and expensive, but the lawyers that are doing it are friends of the politicians that are calling for it anyway. So what's a little state money going to your butts, right?
Right. Yeah, you know, I saw what happened in Louisiana. They just totally rolled over, and it's like, and to see this in South Carolina and Alabama is pretty extraordinary to me, because I mean, you know, no offense to the people in those states, but I thought they'd roll over too when it came to this kind of stuff. But you know, things aren't as they appear to be these days, so you know that's why we pay attention to these things and you know see what's happening. So. And yeah, go ahead.
Another thing that voters everywhere need to consider, regardless of whether you ride a donkey, an elephant, or an armadillo, or whatever, is that every moment a state government spends on this shit is a moment less that it's spending on actually doing the business of your state.
Yep.
And that alone should be a reason for outrage, but I'm not seeing people feeling it.
Yeah, it's a power grab, and it always has been. I mean, we've seen them on those congressional maps, the spaghetti things, and it's like, you know, like it looks like some sort of like Egyptian hieroglyph or something. You're like, what the hell is this?
You ever see a Chicago ward map?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't even want to talk about like New Orleans down there, the way it's kind of crazy, but that's part of Louisiana. Of course, Louisiana, the Florida of the Southeast, when Florida's not there, when Florida's not home, Louisiana fills in quite nicely. Well, let's get to another court situation here with the Supreme Court talking about Meta. And yeah, so Supreme Court rejects Meta's appeal in Vermont social media addiction case. Yes. So this has been going on. The Supreme Court yesterday rejected a push to avoid a lawsuit alleging that Facebook and Instagram harmed young users, a decision that comes as social media companies increasingly face legal scrutiny. Yeah, kind of like the cigarette companies, right? You can't just put that out there and tell people it's not addictive. Of course it's addictive. Parent company Meta Platforms Incorporated appealed after Vermont's highest court allowed a suit filed by its attorney general in 2023 to move forward. The company is facing similar lawsuits from states across the country, accusing it of knowingly designing addictive features. Meta had agreed that it can't be sued in Vermont court because neither the company nor the app design has specific ties to the state. Vermont countered that the site's larger number of teen users gives its court's jurisdiction. The Supreme Court declined to hear the appeal in a brief, unexplained order, as is typical. The procedural decision comes after court losses for Meta and YouTube in social media addiction lawsuits in California and New Mexico. And just a disclaimer for people watching this show. Yes, this show is highly addictive. And we really appreciate you watching. Stay addicted to this. Stay off them drugs, and come see us. So I don't mind that people being addicted here, but that is a thing, right? It's like they really are just kind of feeding these addictions to people, and yeah, you know, that should there be some you know, judicial stuff going on here, or is this just like, well, you should know it's supposed to be addictive? I mean, what do you guys think?
I mean, I understand the claim. I really do get it. And there are some really dirty tricks. I don't know if people have been noticing this, particularly on Meta. You will log in on your phone, pick up your phone. This happens on your phone, and you'll log in, and then you'll see a provocative graphic or title or something, and then it immediately disappears. And so you go to look, so you think, well, I want to read about that. So you go to search and you enter it in, and then it pops up for you. And they're trying to they're distracting you. I mean, it's an absolute attempt to distract and get you to interact. And it's not what it used to be at all. And it's very clear what they're trying to do there. I don't particularly like any of it, but I'm also concerned that if you go to a legal approach, how much could social media be strangled by government interference? And that is a real it's a tension. I don't have a way of sorting this out other than to say this is why I'm such an advocate of legacy media, broadcast television, broadcast radio, print publications that operate a bit differently. Only because I think that social media is very likely to really blow up in a big way, in a very destructive way. Not so much in terms of the addictiveness, but the increased manipulation of social media and the real possibility of these networks with like we have all these chemical plants that are not being properly maintained. What is not being properly maintained with the social media platforms and companies, and what kind of damage is going to end up being done? So I'm saying there's a real tension there, and I'm trying to watch my usage. I'm not always succeeding, but I'm trying to wean myself off of it.
Yeah, it's good to get outside and get some fresh air too, but without not necessarily with your face buried in your phone like that. And you have to remember, like the real thickness, the real addictiveness of the internet really started maybe about 20 years ago. I'd say that's when it really started taking off. Like once you started having you had MySpace first, then you have Facebook, and I think Twitter came out around the same time too. So once all that started, that's when the addiction started, because it was not only just addicted to whatever you liked watching on YouTube or whatever, it was also the drama, the constant drama. Like when you watch reality shows on TV, but this is like you have 24/7 access to drama all the time. And of course, that's going to be addicted to people who like drama too, so this really falls on like the people who control the internet for like their kids and stuff, right? The parents should be saying, well, let's go outside and play in the grass and have some fun, avoid the ticks, because that's a thing apparently. But to get away from that stuff, and you have to remind the younger folks that those are not the end all be all. There's other things that they need to do to get away from that and break that addiction, right? Like you said, cutting back, that helps too.
Yeah, I think I'm with Warren on this one, in the sense that the sanest approach may be to look at this as we would look at regular television if social media wasn't there. There were probably shows and channels that the kids shouldn't watch, and more importantly, if they are sitting in front of the idiot box for 90% of their waking hours, there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
Singling out Meta now, and believe me, I am no fan of Zuckerberg's zombies. I have had horrific trench wars with them over shadow banning and Facebook jail and a whole bunch of other shit over the years. But they are no longer the definition of social media. In fact, there's a little generational dividing there. The younger generations have gravitated. They passed through Instagram on their way to TikTok to some degree. And I probably, myself, when I look at my own usage, there's some things I do in Facebook. There are other things I do in LinkedIn, which I resisted for forever, by the way. But for some types of professional stuff, it's legitimate hang. That's not where you want to post your cat pictures. You want to do more professional stuff. And social media now is like this hydra. I think there are some things where beating a company over the head may be legit, but just beating one company over the head isn't going to fix the problem. That has to happen on the user end.
I think what's this that really signifies is that this is the canary in the coal mine for this kind of thing. Because you're right. Yeah, it's not just Facebook, but Facebook is probably the granddaddy of them all. And so if you're able to do this to Facebook and Meta and get away with it, then that could be open season for the other platforms as well. So that's why I think a lot of people are watching that story.
Oh yeah, and Europe is actually ahead of the United States on cracking down on some of these companies.
Yeah, Australia too. They're big down there. Like, you got to be a certain age so that you can actually use it, and you got all the face recognition. Woo, I'm like, if I were a kid, I'd be like, it ain't worth it to be on social media if I got to go through all that business. All right, well, go ahead.
Once you're on where we are, algorithms are going to drive people to what the algorithm is sort of the 21st century. The record company is going to tell you what to listen to.
Yeah.
And we just ask you kindly here to listen to what we're doing. Please, we're very nice people. We got a lot to, oh no, that was not what I wanted to do. We got to get to a few more. We got plenty of stories here. Let's talk about Snap. Who you like, Snap? You're a big fan of Snap. Let's talk about Snap. How a new farm bill Snap cuts could affect retailers, right? Snap is not just for poor people. It's for retailers too, folks, because where do you think they're spending that money? From the Snap cards, right? So this is about as good as it gets here. So remember our multi-part series on the 2023 Farm Bill 3 years ago? I'm sure it was a blast. Well, as it played out, there never was a 2023 Farm Bill, lacking the votes to get a new one over the line. The 2018 Farm Bill has instead been extended 3 times, with the bill now set to expire this September. And that's for the Farm Bill. That has to do with Snap as well, for those of you who don't know. This year, there's finally been movement on a new Farm Bill, which, in case you forgot, is a food and agriculture mega bill, typically passed every 5 years. In late April, the House passed a $390 billion farm bill. The bill now heads to the Senate and will likely face Democratic opposition as it codifies $187 billion in cuts to SNAP, the largest ever cut in SNAP funding established by Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed last July. Solidifying the historical cuts for the next 5 years could have considerable impacts on consumers, retailers, and local economies, as SNAP participation has already fallen by 8%, or more than 3 million people between the big bill BBB's passage and January this year, and can continue to decline. That could have ripple effects across the economy. Every dollar in SNAP benefits produces $1.50 to $1.80 in economic activity, says Sarah Bleich. I hope that's her last name. Professor of health policy at Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. She said that in November. And SNAP households make up 12% of grocery sales per the National Grocers Association. During a lapse in SNAP funding last fall, recipients' household grocery spending dropped by 10% during the weeks of October 5th to the 26th of that month. Numerator reported. Ahead of Big Beautiful Bill's passage last year, the Center for American Progress found SNAP cuts could put more than 27,000 retailers, including Walmart, Target, Albertsons, and Dollar General locations, at risk of financial burden. Yeah, so it's not just like, oh, well, y'all need to get a job and buy your own food. It's not like that. There's an actual percentage of these economies that rely, especially smaller places, they rely on these SNAP recipients coming in and shopping with them.
And reported it was a couple weeks ago. I think Uncle Bill was actually on the show. It may have been on the show. We were talking about the fact that they've been expanding. The one of the new rules is that these stores have to have a greater variety within each specific categories of food, and some of these smaller stores don't have the shelf space. They simply don't have that, and so that these stores, with the ongoing cuts, they may not qualify to be SNAP to receive SNAP benefits, but also they may be not, they may not. You have fewer people in your neighborhood who are spending less using SNAP, and they don't have money for food, and they're going to the food bank. These stores can suffer, but also the larger chains are going to suffer because they're operating. Groceries usually are very thin margins, and they're operating on scale. And again, so when you see when you see them losing those customers, they're going to have to make up for that somewhere, because of course the shareholders have to be paid. But that is going to be an issue, and we now have problems with fuel costs. Retailers are now admitting that fuel costs are going to take a chunk out of people's ability to pay for groceries or even drive for groceries. So this could have a serious effect on businesses, both big and small, not to mention, of course, the human cost to people who are not getting access to food. So at this point, businesses need to be keeping a very, very careful eye on this. And I will say that historically, it has been the large grocers that have quietly lobbied against any kind of SNAP restrictions or cuts. And I remember, and this was right before the pandemic, there had been a case where the federal government, I wanted to say, and I may be mistaken, so just take this with a grain of salt, but they wanted the big retailers to disclose how much money they were making from SNAP benefits, and the grocers said, hey, we don't want to do that because that's giving up trade secrets and that kind of information that's proprietary. And the government dropped it, but then the government started to propose additional restrictions, and we didn't see the retailers rising up against it. And of course, what happened was the pandemic happened. It was necessary to get food to everybody, so the program expanded. And now I'm beginning to wonder, where we've not heard a lot from retailers on these recent cuts, but these retailers are also their supply chains are very much hinge on tariffs and the federal government policy. So I really have to wonder who's got the stranglehold here. But this is serious. It's going to affect a whole lot of people up, down, and sideways. And I'm concerned.
I haven't had the pleasure of catching all of your segments on this topic. I heard that there were a few.
How dare you?
At some point, well, I was traveling for a bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
At some point, did military families figure into this? A surprising number of military families are staying afloat courtesy of parts of our social welfare system.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was that covered in an earlier?
We have not, but you're absolutely correct. That was not our main focus, but you are absolutely correct. There's quite a few that are very dependent on this. And the other thing I want to also mention is retail jobs, and I have talked about this before. Retail jobs are often that's a pathway to employment for a lot of people. But also, I would think that in some cases, military spouses might, and I don't know if this is true or not, but might be working at grocery stores or whatnot, because if you're moving around a lot, that's the kind of employment that you're going to be able to get.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to watch again this year what happens with holiday hiring. Because I remember last year there were some cuts in holiday hiring. And so I think that there's a huge impact there, but that's a good point. Maybe something to do a feature on.
Yeah. As someone who's worked in the grocery store industry, they at the very least they'll do a hiring freeze if their sales are low. That's just the nature of it. They won't do that, and then that just means a lot of, and there's turnover. There's a pretty good amount of turnover in those jobs, but but usually it's like high school kids or whatnot, and then they go on to college, and then younger kids come in. But then they put this hiring freeze on, and so that affects the community as well as the business itself. And it's just ludicrous to see that as much money as we spend on the military, that we can't feed our own people without there being some sort of means testing, or how are you going to pay, and it's all a game. Like you said, it's you've said it many times, Lainey, that it's punishment.
Well, it is punishment, and it is humiliation. I was listening to a woman being interviewed recently, and under the new rules, she has to work 20 hours a week to get benefits because she's not older and she's not disabled. But and so if she can, but she can't always get those hours. Mm-hmm. And a lot of retail workers are part-time. They keep them deliberately part-time for their own purposes, yes, but and your hours are not guaranteed each week. And so if you work the 24 hours, then you can get some benefits. But if your employer cuts your hours and you really don't have any recourse there, and you really can't take other jobs necessarily because it's hard to schedule those inconsistent hours around each other, she doesn't qualify for benefits, for food benefits. So she doesn't get a chance she can't work because she's not scheduled for it. She can't eat. Only if she's working can she and her family get the food that they need to eat. And that's the way it's set up. And at this point, if the retailers are starting to get hit by this, watch for more and more people not being able to get those hours and then not qualifying for SNAP.
Well, you mentioned tariffs earlier, and this is interesting. So Trump said he'd remember companies that didn't apply for tariff refunds. Many of them are anyway. Good for them. So while Trump said he would remember the companies that didn't seek tariff refunds, many of the largest U.S. companies have done so anyway. Among the major U.S. corporations that have tried to get the money back, money they paid in duties back, are Walmart, Apple, Nike, Home Depot, General Motors, FedEx, and Costco. Business groups and lobbyists have been trying to parse out exactly what the president meant, and companies have thought about how they could use the money in a way that appeases both the White House and customers. So this is just more idiocy. I remember. A guy probably didn't even remember what he had for breakfast this morning. How's he going to remember these people? John Deere, FedEx, are among the other major U.S. corporations that said they're trying to get refunds. The moves may not represent a sea change in how companies handle their relationships with Trump. Even so, they show key examples of when they're willing to publicly break with the president after he told CNBC he would remember if companies decided not to seek refunds. So yet again, they're all just like, they're like, sure, grandpa, okay, wink, wink, wink. And then they wheel them in the corner and then everybody does their thing, right? So these companies are just like, okay, well, you said that they, I guess legally they got to get them back. And these companies are applying. So
well, it's thuggery. It's like, when we're talking about the FCC chairman saying, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, to broadcast stations that don't toe the line on the kind of rhetoric that he wants, and threatening station license renewals. I mean, basically saying we can accelerate the renewals of their licenses. That's this kind of, mob enforcer talk. And now, I'm going to remember whether you asked for the money back. And then the article went on to point out that fiduciary responsibility requires, particularly these publicly traded companies, to try and get their money back for their shareholders. And it's like, whoa, but I'm going to remember if you asked for the money which you should never have been required to pay back. Gosh, wonder if Trump ever does that with people who owe him money.
But these are illegal. Tariffs too, because these are not technically approved by Congress, right? And that who has to do that? Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, according to the Constitution, but who reads that?
Oh yes, yes. It's funny how that happens. Like the Constitution gets brought out and dusted off for certain things, but then when it comes to this stuff, it's like, it's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah. So that I knew there was going to be some sort of backlash with these tariffs, not just from other countries, but right here at home. And now it's time to pay the piper. And Trump's going to do his damnedest to try to avoid it too. Just like he did in all of his other businesses, right? Captain Bankruptcy. Isn't that how that works? And his Gestapo agents are no better. And now you have posers. You have people posing as ICE agents.
Yep.
Terrorizing immigrants amid Trump's crackdown. So, and Noticias Telemundo investigation documented a marked increase in cases of people posing as federal agents to rob, intimidate, and even injure or rape immigrants. There's an example here. A Christ figurine watches over the doors. A man secures the bolts and bars that protect his home. If the locks fail, a host of archangels, holy cards, and crosses stand guard on nearby walls and tables. Well, that's good. Most people don't live like I do, said the Mexican immigrant who didn't want to give his name out for fear of his safety. I know they're just pieces of wood or little locks, but they help me because I feel a little safer. He said nights have haunted him since January 20th of last year. That's when a group of assailants entered a home he shared with other immigrants in Greensboro, North Carolina, and a hooded man shouted, "ICE, ICE," kicked down his bedroom door. I raised my hands and he asked, "Where's the money?" That's when I realized it was a robbery. It wasn't ICE. It wasn't the police, the Mexican immigrant said. The assault, which local police have not yet solved and for which no arrests have been made. Wow, there's a shock. Happened the same day Trump returned to the White House for his second term, vowing to carry out the largest mass deportation operation in the nation's history. Since then, ICE has swelled by thousands of agents and billions of dollars and has carried out waves of arrests and deportations in cities across the country. Although neither the federal government nor local authorities publish specific records of people impersonating immigration agents. An analysis by Noticias Telemundo based on court records, police reports, and news articles suggests that the number of such crimes has increased over the past year. The investigation documented at least 31 cases last year alone, a sharp increase compared to an average of 5.3 incidents per year in the previous decade. Overall, they identified 84 instances of imposters posing as immigration agents between 2014 and 2015. That's a reminder there too that ICE is not new. ICE has been around basically since 9/11, right? Wasn't that part of the big bad awful surveillance bill? I know it wasn't called that, but that's what I call it.
Patriot Act, yes.
But that's the thing. It's like they don't have any identification. They're wearing masks.
Yeah.
Usually it's just some sort of generic soldier kind of green or whatever. And they're going and anybody and we've seen cases like this before.
We have. And that's one of the things I've been talking about is when you have people who are moving around with impunity, who can cover their faces, who are not required to show badges, the public can't protect themselves. And I mean, I grew up like many women did, the ladies' safety classes and the ladies' safety articles, and they say never open up your door to a police officer until he can show his ID. If a unmarked car is following you and tries to pull you over, pull into a police station. Or you need to take action and say, "I'm not opening up this car, send a marked car." And we were told to do that. I don't know how effective any of it particularly is, but that's what we were told to do. And now people are just supposed to submit to people wearing masks.
Yeah, that's the whole point. It's like it's part of the fear tactics, right?
Yeah.
And these other groups are capitalizing on how easy it is to get away with it. Like the people that in the story, pretending they're ICE, and then they're like, "Where's the money?" Because what are they going to do? It's like now that just carte blanche to anybody.
Because you can be shot in the face.
Yeah.
If you don't.
Yeah, you could. And, and then what is that? And it's like the ICE is like, well, what are we doing about it? Doesn't seem like they're doing anything about it. They're obviously not doing anything to help themselves identify themselves like that because they know they're doing some shady shit. That's why they don't want to be identified.
Given the Chicago connection of this program, I have to ask you, because I've been down here in Hoosierland. Has Chicago quieted down since the invasion?
It seems so. Like, yeah, once their force left, I guess they left here and went up to Minnesota. And then all the emphasis on there. But there's still the shady stuff going on like there was before, but just not to a great degree like there was.
Not enough to have protests out in the street or anything like that. Over that. There's plenty to protest about.
Yeah, I was about to say over that. Probably not. To make things worse for immigrants.
Yeah,
anyway.
this is. My head is exploding over this next story.
So, U.S. green card applicants will now have to return to their home countries to apply, according to DHS. Foreigners seeking to adjust their immigration status in the U.S. to secure green cards will have to do so from outside the country via the State Department. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, said on Friday in a move criticized by aid groups, policy analysts, and immigration attorneys. They announced the move in a policy memo which directed officers to consider relevant factors and information on a case-by-case basis when determining whether extraordinary relief is warranted. The green card process has been unchanged for more than 60 years, marking the latest significant move by the Trump administration on immigration policy. An alien who is in the U.S. temporarily and wants a green card must return to their home country to apply, said the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which has oversight of that program. This policy allows our immigration system to function as the law intended instead of incentivizing loopholes. I don't know about that. According to an analyst with the Cato Institute, more than 1 million immigrants in the U.S. are waiting on their green cards. People apply for green cards in two separate ways: by applying at a U.S. consulate abroad or by applying for a green card while already in the U.S., which is called an adjustment of status. With the new policy, many green card applicants in the U.S. will probably be required to leave while their cases are processed, particularly affecting mixed status families nationwide by forcing green card applicants to leave jobs, homes, and relationships for an unknown amount of time. The agency is already struggling with a backlog of visa and green card cases. Yes, once again, this is unnecessary bureaucracy, gumming up the works for these people. Like they said, there's two ways to do it. One is to go back home and do it at a foreign consulate, or you could do it here. And now they're saying, well, you can't do it here now.
Yeah, and they point out, okay, so you're sent home. You may have potentially losing your job, your source of income, which you might need to qualify for your green card. You're leaving behind your housing. All that it's a highly impractical option. And if you're talking about people who are changing their status, say because they're getting married to a U.S. citizen or a U.S. resident, now they're being separated from that person, and it's a humiliation ritual. This has been going on. They point out that for 60 years, this policy has been here, and it has worked.
I wonder how Melania would have weighed in on that.
Okay.
That's true. Doug here. Good to see you. They wear masks and no visible ID because liberals are terrorizing them in their homes. Liberals who don't want immigration law enforced because the Dems need those illegal votes. Well, that's a talking point. I don't know how true that is, but it is definitely a talking point that I've heard several times. But I think the people who got shot in the face probably wouldn't be the ones who terrorized those people, the poor ICE agents, So I think that probably needs to be taken into consideration that, it's not a monolith. There are different cases. Maybe there is some actual immigration. Somebody needs to be, maybe they're a criminal or something and they need to be deported. Okay. But this other stuff is just mostly fear tactics. And basically these ICE agents are largely in part the new Gestapo enforcing what Trump wants done. It's not a matter of what's right and what the law is. It's what Trump wants. And,
let me just add here too on that point. If you go into any form of law enforcement, no matter what it is, you assume a certain level of risk as part of the job. If you are, say, in the DEA and you're working undercover and you're busting drug dealers, there's a risk that much more dangerous characters than passionate Democratic voters are going to bother you or your family. It's part of the job. It's part of the risk you assume. It doesn't justify being a masked man. It does not.
Well, they're the only ones wearing masks. Your police aren't wearing masks. I mean,
Exactly.
they may be wearing gas masks during the protest, but overall, they're not wearing masks.
Exactly. And if you're undercover in a drug unit, you're not wearing a mask. You might be using a fake name or whatever, but you're findable. It comes with the job, for better or worse.
Yeah. It's and cops know that too. Cops know that it's a dangerous job, and they know the risks. And so these ICE, they're not delicate flowers. These ICE agents,
there's no basis to give ICE that kind of carve out. There's not.
I also point out that when you're in this kind of public employment, your details are made available as part of public record, including what money you're making, where you're working, if you're a prison guard or if you're a sheriff's deputy, all that information. If you're a teacher, that information is a matter of public record, and anybody can look it up, and it's there. And so if you're going to be operating, in that role, your information is exposed to the public because you are a public servant.
Yeah, and you're just making your own point here, dude. ICE agents are not undercover. They operate in public as ICE agents, but they wear masks. And police operate in public as police, but they don't wear masks. So that's the big difference right there. Why the need for masks? And if you say, well, they're being terrorized, that is probably like a very, very small percentage of these,
and a risk
officers.
that they assume.
And it is a risk they assume. Exactly.
When they take that job.
Especially if you're breaking the law, you're really pushing the envelope there. So, we have several more stories. Do you want to skip ahead, Lainey?
We can skip ahead if you want. Yeah.
Maybe we'll go to the press pool.
Sure, we got some interesting stories there.
Yeah. And you can read all of our stuff here. All these stories are going to be in the Substack there. They're already there, I believe. Miss Lainey takes care of that. They are.
I sent that out this morning, and here we go. I'm also going to send our link to our link tree where you can follow us. Yeah, if you do subscribe to the Substack, you'll get a reminder about the show. We got links to the show, that our times, and all the places where you can watch this show, because this show's on. We got some stuff on Facebook. We're on the Rumbly Tumblies. We're on YouTube. Got a video stream on Substack, so you got a lot of different options for watching the show.
Yeah, and all the links are down below in the little crawly thing. So if you can help us out there, we appreciate it. We got 92 people on subscribe to us on our Undercurrent YouTube channel. If you haven't liked and subscribed, we appreciate it, whether you agree with this or not.
Yeah, we do.
We do like to have these conversations, and hopefully you do too. So we are getting to the press pool, and I am caught unawares once again, but that's the story of my life. So this is wild.
This is wild, and it's wild. By the way, I learned about this through Fox News, and the New York Post. I mean, far more conservative publications who've just been exposing this story. It's crazy.
Yeah, so a Texas mom is suing cops who arrested her for drawing attention to the city's unsafe brown drinking water. Don't be telling people about our delicious brown water. What's wrong with you? The Texas mom is suing the cops who arrested her for warning on social media how her town's dirty drinking water has hospitalized citizens. So Jennifer Combs of Trinidad was tossed in jail earlier this month as alleged political retaliation for posting about the serious public health concern on Facebook, a possible freedom of speech violation, according to Fox 4. It was probably one of the most humiliating things I've ever gone through in my entire life. It was very, very bad, she told the outlet. I believe that's the lady right there. She proving that it was bad. So Combs called her May 8th arrest for felony false alarm or report is an extreme stretch, considering even the city's mayor, Dennis Hawes, has admitted that residents are plagued by disgusting brown and yellow tap water issues being in quotes. There's people that are saying that their appliances are getting ruined. They can't cook with the water. They can't bathe with it. They can't do laundry. Yeah, that sounds like Flint to me. A lot of them feel hushed and like they don't have a voice, and no one listens to them and no one takes them seriously. So Combs posted a Facebook message on her citizen watchdog group page, Southern Bell Watch, on April 6th, imploring those who have been sickened by the city's tap water to report it. Look at that water. Ugh. Jeez.
I wouldn't drink that. If my coffee looked like that, I wouldn't drink it. I mean, ugh.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. We've received reports that some citizens have been hospitalized due to bacteria in the water. This is a serious public health concern that deserves immediate attention, she wrote. If your water looks discolored, contains sediment, has a strong odor, or you have experienced related health issues, please send us a message. We are gathering information and reporting findings to the state. Following the post, Combs was arrested, and Trinidad Police Chief Charles Gregory later doubled down on the move. Gregory called the case cut and dry and said her claims about hospitalizations are simply false and have only caused unnecessary fear and confusion in our community, according to some talking point he wrote in a Facebook page. Trinidad police claim Combs wrote false information that creates fear, panic, or unnecessary emergency response within a community. She's a terrorist. The city, however, posted its own notice to residents urging them to boil their water to avoid harmful bacteria on April 21st, weeks after Combs' post. Trinidad has suffered through a long-running water infrastructure problem with pipes dating back to the 1950s, according to the mayor. We have to get to a position where we can fix that infrastructure, and it's very expensive, as I'm sure you're aware, Hawes said Tuesday. The city's water situation is a struggle without question. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality confirmed it received a complaint regarding the water quality in Trinidad and that an investigation is ongoing, according to Fox 4. Dale Carpenter, a constitutional law professor at Southern Methodist University, was skeptical that Combs had committed a crime, as probably most of us are, and said her First Amendment rights may have been violated. She's making a statement regarding a matter of great public interest, and so people sometimes make false statements on matters of great public interest, and they're allowed to do so, he told the station. I really haven't seen anything like this before. Combs has since filed a federal lawsuit against the city, which includes Gregory and other member of the Trinidad Police Department. C.J. Grisham, a lawyer for Combs, called her arrest an abuse of power. And it's like, oh, you're causing fear. And it's like, no, your brown water is causing fear, dude.
I nearly went through the roof when I read this. For one thing, for the police chief to say this is cut and dry, it's not his job to pronounce the legitimacy of a case. That's not what the police are there for. And number two, when you look at the way she said, we have received reports. She didn't say that it was causing hospitalization. She said on her group, she said, we have received reports.
Yeah.
And, that is when you're writing about stuff, when you're basing something on a report, you're not 100% sure, but you're basing it, you report, this is a report. This is what we've been told. You use scare quotes. You will word your reporting in such a way to make it clear that this is based on what you've been told or a report. And that's what she did. This is harassment. This is just disgusting.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's almost, well, more disgusting than that water. Or maybe not. I don't know. But that is, wow.
I don't know about that.
And I'm
That
glad
water
that
looks
she's
pretty
speaking
rank.
up. I mean, she's getting the attention. I mean, again, it was Fox News, which is where I found out about it. And that this is really just really over the top, a total abuse of power. I'm glad that she was able to do this. It does make me wonder. I want to have a look and see what kind of local media they have in their community. Why was she the one reporting this?
Yeah. If anything, this is going to be a Streisand effect, especially after what that police chief said.
Yeah.
This is cut and dry. Oh,
No,
is it really?
He's not the judge. He's not the judge.
No. And this is just going to encourage more people to look into what's going on there. So
yeah,
as the rapper says, congratulations, you played yourself.
Yeah. And this is a symptom. Trust me on this. This is a symptom. There's something else going on.
Bill, any thoughts as you're there with your lovely living room with your piano in the background?
This is the first time I'm catching up with the story, so I'm glad you presented it. I do find it disturbing. How many people live in Trinidad? Do you know the population?
It's not a big place. As a matter of fact, it was interesting because I was trying to look up some of these politicians, and they were not even, they didn't even have an affiliated party.
It must be a small town in Texas, right? It was in Texas. Yeah, I think so. I should know. I just read it.
Yeah, I mean, in some small towns, the gendarmerie mistakenly believe that they are the law. So.
About 860 people.
Yeah, that's about the right size of town.
And she's gotten an outside, and this is one place where social media is doing its job, is that she's a citizen reporter. She has a Facebook page, the Southern Bell Report, which I think is lovely, and she's getting this attention, and she's not only drawing attention to the water, but to the way that town is operating. I'm glad that she was able to get other media outlets on this.
Yeah, I'm all for her. I'm just wondering if there's a fine associated with the charge.
I don't know, but I will report next week. We'll put that into the reoccurring tide.
Where I'm going with this.
Oh, they're trying to make money for their tax base.
Yeah.
Yep, that's nothing new down there, and not just to Texas either.
Some of it happens further north towards Laney than people.
Oh, yeah, it's a big deal. As a matter of fact, I was told, not that I don't drive, but there's a town around here, I will not say its name, that they don't have any real tax base, and their main source of income is tickets.
Yeah,
speeding tickets.
Yep.
So, that's not,
Yeah, that's the Mississippi business model for sure. Someone who lived there for 30 years.
Oh.
At the end of every month, you always had those roadblocks on the highways, and it wasn't for safety purposes. That's for sure. So go ahead.
So I'm wondering if there's an element of that in play here too.
Could very well be.
I wouldn't be surprised in these small communities and the way things are economically. I would not be surprised at all. Again, I don't have proof. I can't say for sure, but my spidey senses say, yeah, that's probably what's going on. So we're talking about journalists going to the World Cup here in the United States. FIFA, Viva la FIFA, as the Committee to Protect Journalists urges heightened awareness for journalists traveling to the U.S. for FIFA World Cup. The CPJ has advised journalists traveling throughout the U.S. for the 2026 FIFA Men's World Cup may face questioning or hostility from immigration officials at the border or around venues. You know, the masked guys that are getting harassed by liberals. The World Cup spans games across cities in the U.S., Mexico, and Canada from June 11th to July 19th. CPJ, a press freedom organization that works globally, has published resources for journalists reporting on the World Cup from this year's host countries, including a travel advisory and legal rights guide. A travel advisory to the United States. That's where we're at, folks. FIFA has accredited an estimated 50,000 journalists and media workers to cover the games. The majority of World Cup matches will be held in the U.S., where in recent months there have been cases of journalists being arrested, detained, and deported in relation to their work. Gee, wonder why. Based on the experiences of recent months in the U.S., journalists traveling to there need to know that their press credentials won't necessarily protect them at the border, or when out reporting, or when just in your bathroom taking a shower, or just eating a cheese sandwich. I'm paraphrasing the last part. Said CPJ CEO Jody Ginsburg. We've seen immigration enforcement used as a tool to silence reporting, with authorities detaining, denying entry to, or deporting journalists not because of any crime, but because of their journalism. The fake news, y'all, we got to make sure that fake news don't happen. So CPJ said, yeah, be careful going to Escape from New Yorkville, where Snake Plissken and Lee Van Cleef are in the mix. You remember that movie? Yeah, 1981. Yeah, that's what it seems like the United States is. It's like, you shut your mouth if you're talking about Trump. That's our boy. Yeah. So, and there's going to be a lot of journalists here.
Yeah.
In the United States for that.
It's just it's so disturbing. This is sports, but and that they have to put this notification out there, because yeah, I think that you're going to have journalists, particularly if where they're from, are going to face, shall we say, scrutiny. Some may get turned back, and that could affect how many journalists are sent here. Some media outlets may decide if somebody is at risk of being turned back and not being able to do a report, they're not going to send that person. I don't like seeing it. I don't like seeing it at all.
Maybe FIFA needs to come up with a press prize to go with the peace prize.
Yeah, I know, right? It's all about the peace prizes.
FIFA Pulitzer or something for Trump.
I think they have a Home Depot Peace Prize, and maybe they can throw that on there. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah, it's just we see what's happening with journalists overseas, and then this whole thing about fake news here, which means basically telling the truth about the people in charge. I think they putting that clarion call out to those journalists is probably a great idea, saying, look, they say they're the land of the free, but I think maybe that part of the program has been left off the agenda in the last few years. So, and we may be getting a replacement for journalism through AI. Aren't you guys excited about that? Don't you want AI to control every aspect of your life? Spotify will now make a podcast for you about anything you want using AI. So here we go. There's gonna be I already see this on the AI channels, like doing like these top 10 mystery type things and stuff, and they get like thousands of views, and poor pronunciation is it's terrible.
Yeah.
So Spotify is pushing deeper into AI with a groundbreaking feature that lets users create their own custom podcasts tailored to individual preferences and daily routines. The music and audio streaming giant revealed the innovation during its recent investor presentation, signaling a major shift towards generative content that blends public catalog material with private user-specific experiences. Yeah, that sounds like somebody, like you going to go buy a condo or something. Yes, it is. It's material with private user-specific experiences and a generative content. This was part of Spotify's announcement about a ton of new features to their podcast service. The new personal podcasts build on Spotify's existing prompted playlist tool, where users input simple descriptions or prompts, more likely, to receive algorithmically assembled music selections. With podcasts, the process evolves into full audio narratives. A commuter in New York might request a morning update covering local traffic, weather, and upcoming events featuring favorite musicians, while a student could ask for a concise breakdown of complex topics like global markets or scientific developments. In under 10 minutes, the system draws from the user's listening history, location data where permitted, and any supplementary materials provided to produce coherent spoken word episodes that feel uniquely relevant. So basically, it just sounds like this personalization of your news and stuff, whereas you're not getting it from one or two sources. Everything's coming to you right there in Spotify. And what does that mean for journalism, for people who actually go out and cover stories?
Well, what it could also mean is, what does it mean for the consumer of journalism? What does it mean when, you've got something that's a mishmash and, you don't know necessarily where information is coming from. You don't know who's sifting it, who's deciding what you are going to be hearing. It's one thing when I first got my Amazon Echo, Alexa has this thing called the flash briefing, and I can pick what I want to hear, and it will bring me sources from, I think it was like NPR. I had NPR, the BBC, and it was NPR, the BBC, and The Economist, and they had these specific programs for the flash briefing, so I could get up to date quickly on the news. But I knew where it was coming from. People were identifying themselves. It was real human beings doing the reporting and putting it together, and I knew the sources. With this, I mean, how do we know? How do we know where these sources are coming from? What is speaking this to us? Is this a human being that's speaking, or is this an AI voice that is just pulling things that may or may not be accurate? It is really concerning. And Spotify is ubiquitous.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, and I'm saying this as a voting member of both recording academies, a regular and the Latin. In the Latin Recording Academy now, up until recently, you could use whatever streaming links you liked to submit the musical content to the Academy for consideration. Mm-hmm. I won't walk you through how the rest of the Grammy process works, but when you're entering a recording, you have to send the audio, obviously. Streaming links are in use. Well, this year, they required in the Latin Recording Academy the Spotify be one of the links. Mm. And in previous years, some people would turn in Apple, others would turn in Amazon, others would turn in 5 different links, some YouTube. This year, no matter what else you did, no matter what else you posted, you had to use Spotify if you were going to submit for Grammy consideration. Now, a lot of artists tried to pull out of Spotify because of Spotify's. So now it's kind of like, okay, you can walk away from us if you want, but don't even think about entering the Latin Grammys because all roads to there lead through us.
That's disturbing.
Yeah.
That is really disturbing.
Yeah, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know whether I can legally call it corrupt, but
you can sure have an opinion.
It is, yeah, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
But this also brings us back to the algorithm thing we talked about a little bit earlier. Mm-hmm. When a Spotify or anything like it is doing that, it doesn't want to drive you away. So it's not going to throw you a curveball. It's going to throw you what it thinks you should hear. But what you should hear in the sense of you won't turn away from it, which means that anything that deviates from your Weltanschauung is less likely to turn up in what they're feeding you. This has already happened naturally with Fox versus CNN versus MSNBC versus et cetera, et cetera. But when the algorithm is doing that as part of the process, it puts it all on steroids. Mm. And it makes the silos in which we live even narrower. And here's the worst. Lady presented that wonderful radio garden tool. Mm-hmm. Click and surprise. But consumers now of information are less inclined to do that. Consumers are actually plugged into, I want to stay in my silo. I don't want, I don't want weird food. I don't want weird music. I don't want weird information.
It's very filtered. Yeah. It's very filtered.
Yeah. And things like what we're talking about here make it infinitely worse.
Yeah. And you don't get sometimes the rando stuff outside of what you're usually are into is sometimes ends up being
part of what you're into because you discovered it outside. And that's the thing. And when you're in that, wearing the blinders on that kind of stuff, it's really, we're segmented as a society already. And that just makes it puts people in their own little spots and keeps them out of society in a way that, makes it where it'd be healthy to be in society where you're just like, that's your world. That's what you're focused on. It's terrible.
Did I ever share Opinion Rhapsody with you?
No. Is that a drug? I don't remember.
It's a parody on Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's about social media warriors. Let's see if this will come up. I'll share it. You can keep going. I'll share this in the links if I can find it.
Great. Yeah, just put it in our private chat there, and we'll get to it. I mean, how you guys doing on time? We're running well behind we usually are. I can skip ahead if you want, if you guys are ready to get out of here soon.
Well, I don't have to get out immediately, but some of this stuff in at least the first story in the Clownfish School is pretty funny.
Yeah, we can get to that. It's Kash Patel, your favorite Muppet. There he is. He's one of those the Muppet rejects. Kash Patel merch site hacked to trick users into installing malware. There he is, right there. He's like me. Oh, Kash, you and your little honeypot lady. A website that sells merchandise related to FBI Director Kash Patel went offline Friday after a hack apparently tricked visitors into downloading malware. The site, unprecedented for an FBI chief, sells cash. It's K with a $H. If you're just listening to this, branded patriotic goods such as clothing and books. The site, known as Based Apparel, I'm not sure what it's based on, has offered Love It or Leave It t-shirts for $35, government gangster playing cards for $10, and a fight with Kish, K $H. It's like that singer girl with she has like the $sign in her name too. It's weird. That scarf for $25. It also sells on a line of children's books. Oh God, those poor kids. This week, visitors to the website were met with a Cloudflare verification page normally used to protect websites from malicious traffic, not from delicious traffic. That is totally welcome, but that malicious traffic, not so much. But it had been altered to claim that each visitor's IP address had been flagged for irregular web activity. Visitors were then prompted to copy a code from the website and paste it into the terminal on their computers, a social engineering technique known as click fix attack. When entered, the code, designed specifically for Mac computers, watch out, Mac, would download and install malware onto the user's devices. By Friday morning, the site was down. We'll be right back. The homepage read, "We're making improvements to better serve you. The store will be back online shortly, bolder than ever." It urged users to stay based. The malware discovery was made on Thursday by a social media user identified as Debbie with a little d. So I guess maybe it's Little Debbie, the snack cake. In statements to Straight Arrow, Debbie declined the title of security researcher and instead referred to herself as a big-time nerd. What Debbie discovered is that the code users were asked to copy and paste into their terminal appeared to say, "I am not a robot," Cloudflare verification ID 801470, but clicking copy actually grabbed totally different text that contained instructions for the terminal to download the malware without the user's knowledge. That's why it's always, you gotta be careful with them interwebs there, kids. So the malware type is known as an info stealer. A security researcher known offline as Wi-Fi Rumham, who carried out an analysis of the malware, said the info stealer is designed to grab login credentials, browser cookies, information from more than 200 cryptocurrency browser extensions, Apple Notes data, and passwords from each victim's keychain. So Kash got, I guess he got checked. Hey, you get it? His name's Kash.
Yeah. I find it, well, the fact that he has it, as they point out, it's unprecedented for an FBI director to have a merch site. And then I started reading this. I'm like, Kash Patel's merch site. I'm thinking that could be a band name. And then Kash Patel's merch site, the band could have its own merch site. Yeah, and
Right.
and that could be really exciting. I just, the director of the FBI has a merch site, which it's hard for me to get past, but he can't even ensure security on his own merch site.
I find myself wondering what J. Edgar Hoover would have done if he had had access to social media during his lifetime. Would we have seen dress patterns sold online? But I digress.
Yes. I just, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So when you gave me this link to Queen Bohemian Rhapsody, you want?
Oh, not. It would be long to play, really, but it was more for your reference.
Oh, we can show a little bit at least. I don't know if we can play the music, but let's. This is them. Have freedom of speech. So who is this person? Is this the Artem Press? Is this the guy who owns the channel? Is that who this guy is? You have no idea. You just fed me a random.
This is just the random YouTube link.
Okay. Well,
yeah, there we are.
But it's for your own enjoyment later.
Okay, cool.
It is very funny, but it's a little long for.
Let me hang on a second. Let me do a little magic here. We'll put that in the links to in the chat, so in case people want to check that out for themselves. There you go. Ta-da!
No opinion from Mr. Patel. Maybe he's waiting for his staff to tell him what malware is.
He has to ask his lady friend because she tells him everything. We always end the show with something fun, and this is a little quick. Basically, do you guys like avocados? Are you into that sort of thing?
I'm deeply into avocado.
Love them.
Yeah.
Yeah? Super fans? All right. Well, finally, here it is. This is your dream come true, folks. World's largest bowl of guacamole mixed up in Mexico. The world's largest. And my God, look at all that guacamole. I know, right? Just want to get some pita chips, maybe dip in there, a little something like that. Maybe some crackers. That's a shit ton of. That's an actual metric unit of measure is a shit ton, by the way. The 13th annual Avocado Festival in Tensitaro, Mexico, saw a Guinness World Record broken in the form of a almost 15,000 pound serving of guacamole. 14,991 pounds. I guess they couldn't wait, so they ate 9 pounds of it. The record attempt, organized by the local plant health board of Tensitaro, featured more than 1,000 local growers and residents working together to mix up the massive bowl of guac in just under 2.5 hours. I mean, it's really not hard to do. You just basically take the skin off, and then it's basically just solid guacamole. You just got to chop it up, add some stuff. The previous record of 10,961 pounds was set in Paraban, Mexico in 2022. Tensitaro has held the record prior to 2022. So there you go. Basically, that's world record.
No, I just want to
there.
be there and enjoy some guacamole because I love that stuff.
Go ahead.
That is really cool, but I would almost bet money that somebody's going to whisper in Neo Caligula's ear that Mexico is making weapons of mass degustation.
Weapons of mass deliciousness.
Yes.
I ain't gonna lie. I would try to start like a mud wrestling league, and then this would be the ring. And so you got to fight your way out of the octagon. Like in what was it, Thunderdome? 2 go in, 1 comes out. But I would be 2 goes in and no comes out because they're eating the guacamole.
Yes.
Avocados are such a, they're kind of this gamble. I mean, you're in there and you're kind of goosing the little bottoms to see if they, if they're ripe. And then, sometimes if they are ripe, you bring them home and they've already gone bad. Well, then you get the hard ones, and then you're feeling very sad. And then you have to let them, get ripe, and you have to get them just at the right moment. Otherwise, you have a disaster on your hands. But when they're good, they are so good.
I just want to point out too that there's people in the background there too. So there's a lot of people there. So this was not going to go to waste at all. In fact, this may be like one of those deals where you're looking at a galaxy, you know, you're getting the light from 2.5 billion years ago. So as I'm looking at this picture, I know this guacamole is already gone. So I have total faith, and especially look at it was so green and just like light green, just nice, beautiful. Love some guacamole, but too much and makes the trains run on time, if you know what I'm saying. just saying. That's it. That's all we got, guys. I know we ran a little late. Sorry about that, Bill. Hopefully we didn't keep you from a hot date. You okay? You hung out with us?
This was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Anytime. We love having you on. As I said, and I've told you, and you've been very good about this, do not wait for an invitation. You get a bee in your bonnet, let us know about it, and we'll get you on the show because we love having you here. And I know the audience does too. These are fantastic conversations.
If not before, when Indiana does its next step in the dance on Deary and Copenhagen, the election thing.
Yeah.
I really think it's not a national story, and it should be.
We have to liberate the avocado.
Yeah, exactly. Weapons of mass devastation.
Delightful. Yes. Hopefully we can save them from ourselves.
And please do check out our mutual aid links. They're in our newsletter, Substack newsletter, and underneath our video here. Our good friend Yoninah, Beast of, is moving at this point, and she really does need some help. She's got a GoFundMe. She's got to be out of her place on June 2nd. She's got to get her cat moved. She has to get some storage. She has to board the cat someplace. It's a serious situation. So if you can help out, even just by sharing the link, that would be really appreciated. I did put it into the comments, but you can also find it underneath the show and in the Substack. If you can help, please do.
Yeah. If you can donate, great. If you can share it out, that's great too. Every little bit helps. We appreciate that. Bill, any final thoughts? Anything you got coming up? Let's
Nah, thanks again. Always fun.
Yeah. Fun.
Okay. Right on. So yeah, this show will be back next week, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and Substack as well. Hopefully we'll be in the future get back on Instagram too once we get that going. If you haven't subscribed to is it your Instagram that we need
we do need my Instagram. It is just that they've changed their policies on it. Instagram has changed its policies on who can go stream live, and right now I'm 30 followers away from that. Again, it was never a huge source of people watching the show all the way through, but it did let people know that the show was starting. I'm putting my Instagram link in the comments here. If you could just do a quick follow on that, it would really help so that we can drive more people to the channel and to the show. We know that people, when they view the show, they like the show, and we want them to be able to find us, and we need to reach out more. So anything you can do to help, it would be really appreciated.
As far as my shows, the regular ones will be back, believe on June 5th. So that's next week.
Yeah.
Should be back. And may do some little filler shows here and there. Just watch out for that. I'll make sure to put the announcements on YouTube, let people know about that. But other than that, that stick a fork in us. We're done. I mean, don't do it literally because that would hurt.
Ouch.
I saw a video of Narco. Wait a minute, what does that say? Narco Rubio speaking Spanish for the first time ever. Oh yeah. Let me guess. He was in Miami, right? Yeah, because that's where all the real Cubans are the ones that were scared and ran for their lives. That's it for us, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you're watching this later, we appreciate you. Please like, share, and subscribe. It helps us. We're trying to get to 100 subs. I believe we're at 92 right now. Maybe we got more. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, every little bit helps, and we just put the word out there. The word of mouth is always the best advertising anyway. So tell your friends, and if you don't have any friends, be a better person. Get some friends. and tell them about the Undercurrent on Wednesday mornings. All right. Any final thoughts, guys?
Sometimes I just have to be, you just have to be grounded at times like these to see what's going on. Stuff that I never thought I would be seeing in my lifetime, but you know what? It's keeping me on my toes.
And Bill, we won't tell anybody that you're breaking into those people's house with the piano behind you there. Well, it seems like a lot of people break into that house.
Well, it probably belongs to an ICE agent, and he's breaking in, which is why he doesn't have his badge.
Oh, that's right. You freaking liberal. You better watch out. He might put a mask on.
I'm playing Foreigner songs on it.
Feels like the first
Hot-blooded. Oh,
Who set this thing to head games? All right. Got to get out of here. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Take care.
Peace.